Right, so guys, a lot of us watched Johan Rupert on our screens on ENCA on Tuesday night. And a lot of you guys are focused on the thing that he said about black people going to Taboo, buying BMWs, and that's why they're not making money. And I think that we're actually missing the gravitas of what it is that happened on Tuesday when we focus on that small little fact. What happened on Tuesday is that the vice president of the shadow government of South Africa, the vice president of South Africa Inc., the second most powerful man in South Africa after Oppenheimer, came and decided to speak to the masses of South Africa. A man that has never needed to justify himself, explain himself to anybody, a man with so much power that he doesn't have to speak to anybody, came onto our television sets and was interested in speaking to the masses of South Africans to take our attention, steal our hearts and minds. And the question is why? Why did this man, Johan Rupert, need to speak to South Africans and black people in particular on Tuesday? Now, I tried to get the answer to this question by listening to what he had to say. I tried to get the answer to this question by listening to the questions that were being asked by Given, and none of them gave me the answer. But it's in what was not said, the questions that were not asked, and the questions that he did not answer, that I started to get some answers. But more critical, it is in the aspect that there was this event happening in the first place that I actually ended up getting all my answers. The very first thing that I immediately discovered was the fact that white South Africa is in a crisis. White South Africa is in such a crisis that it feels the need to reach out to people that they've never had to care about before. And I'm not sure why it is that white South Africa is in a crisis, but I think it has something to do with the fact that black South Africans are waking up. I also think it has something to do with the fact that white South Africans are scared to lose the privilege that they've always had and what it is that they've benefited from exploiting black people all along. How they are fearing to lose this, I'm not too sure. But the fact that this show happened a day on which land expropriation without compensation had just been approved by Parliament is very telling. But what I also learned is that the black elite class in South Africa is totally captured. The black elite, like our politicians, our business class, our capital class, intellectuals, and black professionals are captured, but they also do not have power in South Africa that they're willing to piggyback on white monopoly capital, become defenders of white monopoly capital, and they will protect white monopoly capital at whatever cost is possible. This I learned when I saw Given Mukari, a black man wearing a red tie as if he's an imperialist capitalist, asking leading questions to give Johan Rupert opportunity to narrate his perspective, thinking, and ideology that is basically white monopoly. I also saw this man, Given Mukari, from an institution that we have always felt had black interests, showing us that his institution, Power FM, is just another asset and tool for white monopoly capital, because the Rupert empire, the Rupert media empire, also owns Power FM, which was utilized to give his narrative as a PR exercise. Given Mukari asked this man, Johan Rupert, if he was white monopoly capital. Johan Rupert said that he was not white monopoly capital because he has no monopoly. The monopolies in South Africa are SAA, and he said Eskom. But Given Mukari did not follow up to say, how is it that you, Johan Rupert, a man that owns Remgro, Venfen, Rembrandt, BAT, and many other institutions in South Africa would not be a monopoly, yet you have got controlling stakes in Absa, FNB, West Bank, First Rand. And those are the very same banking institutions that are the biggest shareholders in the Reserve Bank of South Africa, which is a privately owned institution, the institution that prints our money. He did not ask how this man that controls these two major banking or commercial banking interests in a country that only has 4 commercial banks that control our Reserve Bank and decide through a registrar of banks who else can become a commercial bank in South Africa. That is monopoly. But Given Mukari chose not to chase him, to ask him how he could not be monopoly. Given Mukari also seems to have forgotten that this very same man also holds controlling interest in the insurance sector, where he controls interest in Santam, Momentum, Metropolitan, and of course, Discovery Life. This man who's got controlling stakes in those leading insurance companies says that he is not monopoly, and Given Mukari let him get away with that. The very same man tells us that he is not monopoly, yet he controls most of the leading media houses in South Africa. Kagiso Media, Media 24, Naspers, Caxton. The question is, why wasn't Given asking the relevant questions and the right questions? But the reason he couldn't ask the right question is that the show was not about the truth, but it was a media exercise. An opportunity for Rupert to give us a narrative about how he views South Africa as a white monopolist. He also invited key South African business leaders and politicians, with Thabo Mbeki there, the Duke Ivan Khoza, and many other prominent South African business people who came to listen to Rupert saying something that they did not, that they've always known, but also to listen to him lying about who he is, yet they already know who he is. I started wondering why. Why would they come to be insulted like that? Why would they come to listen to Rupert making fun out of black people, calling black people spenders and idle? And I realized that he could do that because most of them were made by Rupert. He's the finance and the funder behind most of their businesses. Moreover, he is FNB, he is Westbank, he is Absa, he is Rand Merchant Bank, he is the insurance companies, so he owns them. And what they did is to come and pay allegiance to him on Tuesday. As they listen to him waffle and talk bullshit, it is because he is their master. And he showed it on Tuesday night. I also like the way that he kept talking about EFF, ridiculing EFF, to the extent that he actually pointed out that he's friends with the chairman of the Taxi Association, and therefore he would use the Taxi Association to deal with EFF if ever EFF went after him. What Rupert was saying is that he will use black people to fight black people to maintain white monopoly. And the fact that people like Mbeki, people like Ivan Khoza sitting in that crowd found reason to cheer and laugh to such an insult to blackness was another indication that those men have no power, but all they have is owed to white monopoly capital. It was a sad day, Tuesday, to see a white man ridicule black people, make fun of black people in front of black intellectuals, black business people, black capital class, and politicians, smiling and giggling at the insults. But it was so clear what this was. There is desperation in the white monopoly camp. Something is changing and they feel it in the air. And there is a need to reassert their power. There is a need for them to marshal the black elite to protect their interests. After I noticed that and recognized that, I felt that there's hope. There is hope that whatever it is that they're afraid of is going to defeat them. And I pray that I'm going to see that day as I live.